Take it home.
Okay, so what's going on today here?
Hello, everybody. This is another episode, not in our native language, in English, though. And we have a special guest here with us today. We have Ozger Ozer, if I'm pronouncing correctly your name, or something like that. From me, it's going to be Oz from now on. Oz, I met Oz in a FIP workshop. She's a pharmacist from Turkey. We had a very interesting conversation in the midst of the workshop and afterwards. And we decided that we should get together with the rest of the guys and talk about the situation with Turkey and the earthquakes and the things that are going on there, and discuss the role of the pharmacist in your country with the situation that is occurring right now. Oz, welcome to PharmaBabble. It's a great honor to have you here. Thank you very much for your time and your energy, especially in those hard times that you're experiencing right now in your country. And we would like to know more about you. I did a very minor introduction, but I think that you are the most special person to describe what you do and what your expertise.
Well, thank you, Elias, for the warm introduction. I am delighted to be here with you today. Diamantis, Konstantinos, Elias, my dear neighbors from Greece. As Elias mentioned, I'm from Turkey. I live in Ankara. For now, it's a safe zone compared to northern eastern Turkey, unfortunately. We are here to discuss the earthquake that affected both Turkey and Syria and what we can do as pharmacists. So who am I? I'm just a pharmacist, but let me just give you a quick background on what I do professionally. So I hold a PhD in social and administrative pharmacy. I have extensive experience and knowledge in pharmaceutical policies, communications, and media relations, also with professional pharmacy associations. I currently work at the International Pharmaceutical Federation, as you know, FIP, as Education and Professional Development Manager. I've been at FIP more than 3 years. I also work as a pharmacist in Turkey doing practice. I don't own a community pharmacy though, but I work for the government, for the Republic of Turkey Social Security Institution. So I'm very, very happy to be with you today.
So what's your role? What's your role in the government? What do you do there as a pharmacist? What is your duties?
Well, my duties is that Turkey government exports some orphan medicines here in Turkey for the patients, and we check the patients' reports and their found lab results and everything, and check if the patient is suitable to get the medication. It's
so you are in the realm. You're
practice.
in the realm of Diamantis, which he is a clinical pharmacist, and you evaluate their situation and you decide if they are good candidates for this kind of medication, usually orphan drugs or something like that.
Yeah, more or less like that.
So you interact with patients.
Excuse me?
You interact with patients, actually. You see them.
I'm not in practice, but I support the system. Let's just say that. I actually much involved with the policies and the governance with the FIP, because we get to contribute from the global perspective, not just national and regional side. So it's given me great pleasure to be a part of this. When the earthquake affected Turkey and Syria, I experienced that it's very important that we as the pharmacists have the power to reach out not only to patients, but to other colleagues out there internationally. So it was a good experience for me, yes. And I would like to say that when we all talk about the earthquakes, it's actually the crisis management maybe we should take a look at too, because let's just face it, it came from the nature. We couldn't prevent it. We couldn't prevent the COVID-19. Yes, we tried to prevent it from people getting infected, but we could have done something. So it was a crisis management. So it's a crisis management mode here in Turkey and Syria as well. And we should really learn from it, how to respond to it. It's just this too shall pass. Of course, we will always carry the weight of the losses and the people that we lost and the businesses and the money and the buildings. It's a very big picture, but we need to learn our lessons from this, because it's not only affecting Turkey and Syria. The disasters are everywhere. We need to decide how we will do the humanitarian aid and how we will build the system to respond a disaster accordingly. So that's why I'm here to talk about you, what Turkey is doing nationally.
Before we get into the responses from the pharmacy community, I was curious as to where your academic journey was completed within the Turkish Republic, or did you go outside of Turkey to get some academic degrees? Did you study, let's say, in England or elsewhere, or was this a merely Turkish journey?
Well, merely in Turkey, but I have my PhD from Ankara University. It's a well-known school here in Turkey. I get to work with international deans and academic pharmacy leaders, thanks to FIP. So we get to do global projects that will advance the pharmacy and pharmaceutical education all around the world. So I'm here in Turkey, based in Turkey, but thanks to the internet, thanks to the remote working opportunities, we get to align our forces.
Yeah, education of pharmacists is very important. Despite this crisis, I think that we can all agree that is a big challenge for pharmacists that were educated 20 years ago, how to keep them up to date and how to make serious changes in the way new pharmacists are being educated. I don't know how is the situation there in Turkey, but here in Greece is a very predominant conversation that we're having with the academia, that we think that the curriculum of universities are more or less outdated. We need more opportunities for ongoing education that is flexible with and in compatibility with the program of a working pharmacist, that he is making a living out of working for a pharmacy or a pharmaceutical company, stuff like that. And this is an ongoing debate. So how is the situation there in Turkey?
Sorry, I will answer that in a brief moment, but I have to say that I disagree with you and your colleagues who think that the curriculum is outdated, Ilyas, because it is not outdated. The information will never change. We'll enhance, we will update it, but the information is there, and the students need to know this so that they can build on it. So what we actually think, rather than transforming the curriculum, we should actually consider what we can do for CPD, for pharmacy, continuing professional development. These are the competencies that we need to decide what a pharmacist will need in a new era after the COVID-19, especially. What a pharmacist needs as a competency. We need to define this. We need to fill in those gaps so that we would have a better graduate, a better pharmacist, and we can advance our profession. So I think the curriculum is good, but we need to take a look at the CPD. That's where we need, for example, the disasters, the earthquake. what kind of competencies does pharmacists need to tackle this issue? What do we need to teach them, and how can we teach them? And interprofessional alliances. We need to combine our forces with nurses, doctors, rescue and search teams. So it's a very it's a bigger picture for the CPD. That's my way of approaching it.
Yeah, my understanding is that the curriculum throughout the universities of the Europe and the rest of the world are very different. So our situation here is that most of the pharmacists think that our curriculum is outdated in terms of education that is useful and up to date. The information is there, but I think we lack lessons and things that are very needed in this area, and not only focusing in pharmaceutical chemistry or pharmaceutical analysis. So that's what I'm saying, that our curriculum seems outdated in that aspect. But I totally agree with the remarks that you made for the CPD in all aspects of our professional career. And I think everybody here agrees with you because that's what we preach. That's what we preach every day in PharmaBabble and our social media presence in everywhere. So let's focus.
Absolutely.
Let's focus about what happened to your country. What was this disaster? What
we have seen the news. We have seen devastating pictures, but we would like to get it from your perspective and go on to the responses of the pharmacy. I think your mic.
Muted. Yeah, sorry. Well, it's very heartbreaking. More than 42 people lost their lives. It's a huge number, and as we speak, the number
42,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as we speak, the number is just rising and rising. It's just because 10 cities have been affected, and there are still many people under the rubble. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's been more than 10 days. So scientifically, most of them are dead, freeze to death, because it's very cold here in Turkey, and they are dehydrated. They starved. It's beyond. I'm having very hard trouble telling you this. It is my nation here in Turkey, but I know you're my neighbors, and we are all global citizens. So a human being can relate how terrible this field could be. Well, although as pharmacists and our government and all around the world, people are trying to help. You from the Greece sent a rescue and search team too, but the damage was too big. So there's only much we can do. Not much we can do. We couldn't save everyone. It's the number. People can't be found. The hospitals are just extended their working hours. It isn't a bright picture, I must say. It's an example. It's a situation that we need to learn by living how to get better from this. And I don't know, actually, it will take quite some time to recover from this. That's for sure. As for what pharmacists are doing, well, I must say that I'm not only saying this because I'm Turkish and I'm seeing it from the very close range, but from a professional perspective, I admired the way that the TPA, the Turkish pharmacist organizations, have built a great structure on how to respond to this disaster. So from the first day that this earthquake took place, it was a Sunday night, in the middle of the night. So on a Monday morning, we woke up to a tragic day. So from the first day, the TPA...
Did you feel this the earthquake in Ankara or in the rest of the Turkey?
I have, and we still feel the aftershocks. I sleep with a whistle under my pillow. I'm
old enough to have experienced a similar thing when I was young in the great earthquakes of 81.
Wow, that was a hard one too. Well, so yeah, we felt it, and I didn't wake up. My parents did, and the house was very shaky. Even though we are very, very much far away from the northern eastern, it's, as I mentioned, Ankara is the safer zone. But I couldn't imagine what it must be for the people in the area. So the next day, TPA and the pharmacists in Turkey, they just bonded. So what they did, the patients sent unused medicines to the pharmacies. And the pharmacist who owns pharmacies opened a system, the TPA built it, so that they can send some medicines to the area. It includes every kind of medicines, diabetics, epileptics, painkillers, you name it. And then people who are the local pharmacy chambers mostly categorize those medicines and sent it to the affected, damaged areas. And TPA built a system for pharmacies, and they built pharmacies out of nothing. They even cut
in the disaster areas.
It is. There are now.
They build the pharmacy in the disaster areas, like field pharmacies, like the military pharmacies and stuff like that.
Exactly. That's what they did. And they even made shelves, and they even cut from the paper and wrote pharmacy to the door. They did everything they could to make it look like a pharmacy. So there are now more than 20 pharmacies in the area. As you said, they are like the ones that military does in the fields. So the beauty of the system is to not exhaust people and to make sure that everyone gets to volunteer and support the people around there. TPA made a 3-day organizational structure. So I volunteer and I go to a pharmacy, let's say in Hatay, one of the worst affected cities. I stay there for 3 days and I volunteer. I help the patients. I give them their drugs. And then when 3 days ended, another group of pharmacists came to Hatay, to that pharmacy, to serve. So it's an amazing organizational structure. Everyone should definitely take an example from this. Of course, it needs to be more professional. We had to improvise, so to speak. It wasn't on the books. It wasn't the handbook. It wasn't the framework. But as pharmacists, we do have tendency to improvise in a very, very good way. And I believe the TPA was very, very much appreciated by the people and by everyone.
This is our collective experience, though, from pandemic as well. The pharmacists, they had to improvise because a lot of the things that we dealt with was not in the books. Konstantine?
I was just wondering while listening to Oz, was this organizational structure improvised actually on the go, or was this a predetermined, let's say, roadmap that was designed in case of emergency? Because it sounds like a major a very good plan to be made up at the point?
Well, it's all thanks to the leaders from the TPA. Actually, it wasn't, even though it was planned, it's not official. It's not open to public. So we, as the pharmacists, didn't know this kind of a big and strong structure was in TPA books. So I think it was more on the field learning. So when this happened, they just really connect forces and decided very in a good way what they can do. So as far as I know, it wasn't planned before, but now that we did, we could do it better. Hopefully, we wouldn't need to, but we need to. We need to plan and update it to see.
That would be, my question. So you think that going forward, you would suggest that there should be plans for emergencies like this to be outlined, so there is a blueprint, ahead of time, and you just follow what the rules say and minimize time losses, etc.
And maybe even exercises. Maybe even let's do it. Pretend to see how that work.
I mean, we all live in a highly seismogenic area, so from little children we do exercises in schools like what to do in case of an earthquake. So, I'm sure that certain governmental structures do have plans in place, but perhaps private collectives, let's say, like pharmacists or the doctors' associations, etc., should have similar plans in place. I don't know. Maybe that's a good
or
opportunity.
access to those plans to make sure we know what we'll do when the time comes.
Definitely. And why not make it a regional plan? Why not make it a global plan? Let's not think for our countries. Let's think big.
For sure.
It should be a go-to plans, some roadmaps, what we can do. So as you said, it's being done. We are trying to build it. For example, FIP has published humanitarian framework. It's a very I highly recommend to our listeners to take a look at that framework. It has amazing suggestions for the pharmacist, what they can do to respond
Maybe we should put a link in the description of the video. You can
sure.
to us and
Sure, I would
can post it in
share
the
it with
description.
you. Amazing.
Thank you.
FIP is currently translating those frameworks into Turkish and for serious language to help the area. So definitely we should have some plans to respond, not just only earthquakes though, all kinds of disasters, because we say crisis management, but let's face it, we didn't actually think about the crisis management until COVID-19 hits. We always said that how crisis management was very important and how we should learn from it and how we should implement it, but we didn't actually realize what we can do, what we should do for the crisis management. I would like to mention from Sandra Carey here, who is the global president of IPG Health. So when the COVID-19 first struck, in 2019, it was a March meeting. I remember very clearly. We had a meeting with her, and she said that we always tell our students how important crisis management is, and we put it in our curriculum, but we don't actually emphasize the importance and really teach what they should do. So the COVID-19 opened the door, and I'm very, very sorry to say that the earthquakes and the other disasters are following. So it's all lessons. So I know Elias has questions, but I would like to also say one more thing. Thank you.
Of course.
The thing is, speaking about the lessons, actually some lessons are learned at school, but some learned from the heart. So if we had better values, for example, yes, we couldn't do anything to prevent COVID-19. It was scientific. But the earthquake, it came from the nature, and we could have, if we had better values, we could respond to that better. How? Before. If we had some better, I'm not going to say better, but that's the word, I believe. If we had some better engineers, better constructive workers who had better values, who had common shared values, who wouldn't work in a building construction that is not going to be last. That's not going to be a strong building. So we wouldn't have this many collapsed buildings, because if everyone refused to work in that construction site, if an engineer refused to do that building, if they had better values, then this wouldn't happen. The owners of the houses, if they had better values, if they were well educated, they would have known what to check, who to ask, so they wouldn't bought those houses to these big numbers. I want to emphasize something. The houses that collapsed are not bad houses, that they're not very old. They're very new, and I must say they're very expensive, very much. Even I couldn't buy many of them. Not possible. So
we have seen this in the news, but news are not always so objective. We have heard from the Greek news that a part of the problem is poor engineering, or maybe poor value in the. So this is true. There were new houses that collapsed.
Yes, very new, very fresh, and when you look from the outside, you would want to live in them.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the very old ones, very new and very expensive ones. So you're very right, Konstantinos. It's the matter of engineering, it's the matter of hardship, and if we had better values, maybe the damage wouldn't be that much.
This is a bit outside our field, but we've all heard the discussions around this matter, and for example, we know that in order to build a house in Greece, you have to adhere to very strict guidelines when it comes to protection from earthquakes, like how much iron it should contain and how it is built, etc. And you can't get a permit to construct a building unless it adheres to these guidelines. So I would imagine that something like that should be the case in Turkey as well, because it's a country that is very seismogenic, right? We're in the same neighborhood, but it's impossible for us to know what's really going on there, right? So you have knowledge from the inside, obviously, that we lack. So whatever you can share, it's
the government is now arresting those engineers and the ones who made the buildings. There are now more than 100 arrestments as of today.
So there are guidelines, but they weren't followed?
Yeah, of course there are guidelines. There are strict guidelines. And I spoke some friends of mine who are architects and engineers, and they say they're shocked to see that bad buildings. They are ashamed of it. So it's, yeah. So the government is.
So it's safe to say that there are some kind of regulations there, but there's no actual way of checking everything when it's done. And so the problem is that the engineers cut corners and save from materials that are very crucial for earthquake protection. And this is part of what caused this massive destruction. The failure of values and regulation as well. if I get correct what you're saying.
We can always do better, Elias. The engineers can always do better. As pharmacists, we can always do better. Yes, we don't cure all diseases at the moment. Yes, the engineers may not be able to build houses that will resist all kinds of earthquakes and all kinds of tsunamis, but they can always do better. And some buildings didn't collapse. Others around them did. So there is a distinction. Some do their work better than others. So we should have more of these people.
Amazing this story.
Do you know about community pharmacists that collapsed in the disaster areas? Do you know of any pharmacists that lost their lives?
That's what I wanted to ask.
Well, it breaks my heart to share that. There are so many pharmacy students. There are so many community pharmacists. There are so many hospital pharmacists who lost their lives. They were sleeping in their homes. The TPA shared their list the other day. I was looking at it and I saw 2 of my friends there. I knew they were living there, but I completely forget that they were working there. So it was a complete shock for me to learn that I lost 2 of my great colleagues to this disaster. So yes, there are so many others. The pharmacy technicians there are so many who lost their lives. And yes, of course, the pharmacists also collapsed. Very closest friends of mine, 2 of my closest friends actually, it's all gone. It says it's my closest friend said it's -2 now, where her pharmacy is. It's where a pharmacist. We are pharmacists, so we put our dreams in those shells, not just the drugs, not just the medicines. We put up our certifications. We wear our gown and we serve.
Our books, everything is
everything.
in the pharmacy. Is there any plans that you're aware of that the Pharmaceutical Association there or a state is going to do for alleviating this massive loss, at least of the materials for the pharmacists that survived this disaster? Do you know any of these, if there's any plans for that?
There are many plans at the moment, starting with the insurance companies, negotiations with the local chambers, trying to find solutions, how we will support the pharmacists who lost their community pharmacies. So there are many plans at the table right now, but the main focus is trying to help the people who are living in the tents, who are out there right now. So yes, this is absolutely, these are the plans that we need to make as our next steps, but it's not a priority. The money, the business, yes, definitely important and is being negotiated, as I mentioned. Also, I would like to emphasize the alliances that FIP does with the TPA. So it's these times that you understand how important the organizational structures are. So you don't actually become a member to be a part of something big. You become a member to serve, to do the CPD, because they are checking the manuals, doing the handbooks, giving courses. So these are the times, they are very helpful, but these are the times that you see how membership and alliances are important. FIP has been in touch with TPA from the beginning. Next week and the coming weeks, more meetings will follow, more solidarity meetings, how pharmacists around the world can support each other. More to be discussed, more to be decided, but yes, we are doing everything we could in our power.
So just to
Oh,
be clear, Konstantin, I'm sorry for that. My comment about doing something for the pharmacies that were closed or were had a major disaster there where everything was destroyed was not about so much about the economic aspect of the situation as much for the fact that the community pharmacy is a living and breathing organization inside the community, and this gives a very big help to the community when it's established again. It gives a sense of normality. If we had any lessons from the pandemic, at least in our country, when everything was in lockdown, apart from pharmacies, the doctors were away,
Same here.
hospitals, yeah. So the community pharmacy was making sure there was a sense of normality still in these crazy times that we were living. So my comment on rebuilding the pharmacies as quick as possible was not so much about the economic help as much as for reestablishing a sense of normality and safety in the communities, which is this that the community pharmacy provides, and it's very undervalued, I think, by the states and the other health professionals as well. We've seen that in the pandemic crisis.
Definitely,
We had an opportunity to see.
We are the closest go-to person for the community. So definitely having pharmacies and pharmacists around gives a kind of assurance to the people around that they're supported.
That was the point of my comment, not so much about the economic support and they help them rebuild the business per se. You said that they have tents and they cut cardboards and said pharmacy. So to reestablish a view of normality and people can see something that is familiar to them. That's why I was asking if there is an immediate plan for that as well.
It's not being constructed at the moment, but the temporary pharmacies will probably last some months longer too, because they're very needed in the area. At the moment, it's very hard to give a pharmacist a license to open a pharmacy to provide service. So that's why the temporary pharmacies, more than 20, the number is in the area, will hold maybe 1 or 2 months more.
I was also wondering, we have seen in the pandemic some emerging new roles for the pharmacist that were not actually pharmaceutical roles. We have seen, let's say, in Greece, registrative roles, bureaucratic assignments. Were the local pharmacists in the earthquake regions assigned such roles? Maybe triage, or I'm not sure what I'm asking here, but something more than just dispensing medication.
Well, many of my friends visited the cities who were affected by the earthquake, and they mostly volunteered and served there as a pharmacist, because that's the only way we know. We know pharmacy does that. That's the only way we can help. I'm sorry to I won't be able to answer your question, because as far as I know, people who went there just go to serve as a pharmacist, because the cities are closed, so only the professionals, only the rescue and rescue team would enter, and the
volunteers, yes.
Other volunteers, yeah, because it's an area that needs to be treated very carefully. It isn't for any of us to do, and so that would be my answer to you. Sorry, not for knowing more.
Well, you've said a lot more than we hoped here today, and I've listened with very carefully what you said. There was a lot of pearls of wisdom in your words. You had a very good understanding of the new roles of pharmacy. Perhaps part of this is because of your FIP background. So you are more of a global pharmacist right now, and you understand the whole picture, the big picture. As far as we're concerned, we are very grateful that you took the time and you gave us this interview. You shared this information with us. Sometimes I feel that we do not deserve the beauty of this world. We take a lot of things for granted. We have experienced that in many ways the past 3 or 4 years, and I'm still not sure that we got the message. We get what's going on and how precious is every moment that we get to share on this earth and be healthy and happy, and our people are near us. Things that's like the one that happened in your country makes it so obvious, and yet we tend to forget. When we get back to normality, we tend to forget how beautiful and precious this world is. I would personally like to thank you for everything that you said here. Hoping to be able to collaborate with you in many things and matters in the future. And I give it the rest of the goodbyes to my fellows here that were very silent. Thank you very much, Oz.
We are in awe, obviously, and not many things to say. Just be in a place to carefully listen and appreciate, and hope for the best. You have our best wishes. We all wish for the best possible outcomes. We are all realists, maybe too cynical at times. We know how hard this is 10 days after, but one can only hope, right? So my best wishes to you, and many, many thanks. And it has been a great honor to have you here. And perhaps we could do this again on a more fortunate occasion and discuss strictly pharmaceutical stuff,
More
and bore
science,
everyone out.
less grief and devastation.
Yeah, Konstantine?
I'm also very happy and very grateful to have listened to your insight. You have shared more than news. You have shared feelings, prospects, wishes, hopefully lessons for the future. And I'm really looking forward to a more peaceful time where we can come back together on PharmaBabble and discuss science and science only. I really thank you. Thank you so much.
So our best wishes to all our friends and colleagues in Turkey and every citizen that is suffering there. We hope this ends soon and you all get back to some kind of normality and deal with the trauma this situation created. Thank you very, very much, Oz.
Thank you. I appreciate the offer, and hopefully we would meet on nicer and brighter days to advance our profession. Thank you for organizing these amazing podcasts. It's great that you're doing here, and I'm happy to support you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.